True leadership is not just about managing people, it's about moving ideas. And thought leaders, they don't just react to the times. Nope, they reshape them. So, how do you cultivate influence that comes from depth, not just visibility? This is what we're unpacking today. So, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Transformation Station, the podcast where leaders grow from the inside out. I'm your host, Adrienne Benton. And listen, I have a confession to make. That confession is today, I have a sore throat. So if you hear me sounding a little bit like a bear, just come on and keep on journeying with me. Why? Because in this episode today, we're going to explore mindsets and practices that help you lead thoughtfully, purposefully, with presence and authenticity. That's right. We're talking about thought leadership. Thought leadership isn't about being right, it's about being real and being real with courage. I'm super excited because today I have an amazing guest, a man of experience. And let me tell you just a little bit about him. I have Nicky Billou with me, and Nicky is a two-time New York Times best-selling author. He is an in-demand and highly inspirational speaker to businesses, business audiences such as Wealth Genius, Entrepreneurs Organization, and Star Media. He is the creator of the Thought Leader, Heart Leader TM designation. Transformation Station. Listen, Nicky, we are so glad that you're here with us. Welcome to Transformation Station.
Adrienne, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Fantastic. Well, listen, this is going to be an epic conversation because we are really talking about a topic that is real and relevant today for our high-driven leaders. Now, Nicky, I've always believed that thought leadership starts with listening, like noticing needs, tensions, questions around you, right? In my mind, when I think of thought leadership, it's not about building a platform, it's about building a perspective. So I want to start right at the grassroots, like 101. What is a thought leader?
That's a fantastic question. Before I answer it, let me tell you a little bit about my backstory because it'll illuminate this and illuminate it very powerfully. I'm originally actually an immigrant from the Middle East. I'm a Christian from Iran. When I was 11 years old, the Islamic Revolution took place in Iran. There were literal gun battles in the streets near my home. My mom and dad were freaking out. But one day their freak out factor went up 1,000-fold because there was a crash through our living room window and something landed next to my feet. Now, I'm a kid. I don't know what it is, but it was a bottle full of liquid with a burning wick, a Molotov cocktail. My dad knew what it was instantly. He grabbed it. He pulled out that wick and he turned the bottle over. On it was taped a note that said, "Die, Christian scum." So mom and dad said, "That's it. We're out of here." And they took me and my two brothers out of Iran. And eventually we landed where I live now in Toronto, Canada. Now, at the time, Adrienne, I'm sure you can relate. I was a kid. I didn't want to leave my home. I didn't want to leave my friends. But as time went on, I could see the nobility of my mom and dad's sacrifice. They left behind everyone and everything they knew for a chance at a better life for me and my two brothers. And I could see that they took us from a legacy of tyranny and dictatorship to one of freedom, free expression. And I believe if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a leader of any sort, you believe in freedom. Without freedom, you can't have free thought. Without free thought, you can't have free expression. Without free expression, you cannot be an entrepreneur in the free enterprise system. You're going to just be somebody who's going to need to lick the boots of a tyrant just to get a few crumbs. And that's why I'm so grateful that we get to live in a free society and we get to pursue our own dreams because they're incredible. And my mom and dad, they were the ones who made it all possible. My dad had a powerful influence on me. Every day he'd tell me, "Adrienne, son, life is about people, not money." And I'd go, and then he'd say, "Son, even business is about people, not money." And I go, "Dad, but don't you need money to do business?" He said, "You do, son. But you know what? Without people, you don't need money, because all business is solving problems for people for a profit. You
Mhm.
think about it, draw 3 circles in a Venn diagram: problems, people, profit. And my father would say to me, son, life is about your fellow man and woman. He said, you got to believe in people, because every day on this planet, somebody has their self belief wobble. And it's
Mhm.
your job to pour in your belief, that little spark, so that wobble stops and turns into this roaring fire of belief. And they get to live a life less ordinary. And for me, what I do, who I am, what I'm all about, yes, thought leadership is important. And thought leadership is something we're going to dive into in a deep way. But first and foremost is the human element, is believing and loving your fellow man and woman, because that is what everybody needs. They need someone real. They need someone to love on them, to care about them, because there's days, all of us have those days where we don't feel at our best. And God sends us little angels. And my job is I'm one of God's little angels. I'm a professional believer in people. And that's
Mhm.
how I do what I do. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I love that. First of all, thank you so much for sharing with us your life journey. I know that there are listeners and viewers who absolutely can resonate and receive inspiration and encouragement, even right now, as so many people are going through a lot of difficult times. And as you were talking, as we tie this in with thought leadership, you said a few things. What came to me was authentic leadership, right? Where you focus on people, not just the processes and procedure. You bring empathy into it, right? And you're right. We are going to talk a little bit later on more in depth, but we want to start off right away by inviting our listeners and our viewers to tie in what Nicky said to us with what you have experienced and what your knowledge is when it comes to thought leadership, right? We focus in this podcast on best practices. We want to invite you as a thought leader to be consistent and courageous. Nicky talked to us about the experience of his dad. His dad was a thought leader in how he steered his family. He was courageous and consistently brought him through, right? Nicky is continuing to be courageous and consistent. And so we want to invite you as leaders, be teachable, right? Ask questions, seek big answers, be consistent in how you show up. And then you said something else that triggered this thought, Nicky, and that is, share wisdom, not just knowledge. Knowledge informs, wisdom transforms. Speak from experience, not just ego. And in this community that we have here, we are leaders who have been leading anywhere from 15 to 25 years, right? Experience. We've kind of been around the block a little bit, but we always need a reminder about what is real and what is important. So I want to ask you this question, right? In your view, what truly defines a thought leader today? And how is that different than from simply being an expert or an influencer? Everybody's an influencer today, right? but what truly defines a thought leader?
That's a great question. So, two of my mentors, one is a fellow by the name of Matt Church, gave beautiful definitions of thought leadership and then contrasted it with being an expert. So, an expert is someone who knows something, right? So, but experts are a dime a dozen.
Mhm.
They may be good at what they do, but they're invisible. But a thought leader is someone who's known for knowing something. Thought leaders are rare and valuable and sought after. Another one of my mentors, who was a guest on my podcast, was the great David Meerman Scott. David Meerman Scott said to me that an expert is like a cover band while a thought leader plays original music.
Mm, I like that. Mm. Expound on that. Keep going. This is good. This is good.
So if you think about this, right, many people out there are in the whole influencer game. Let me get lots of likes, followers, views, man. Yeah, that means I'm a thought leader. No, it doesn't. It just means you're good at getting eyeballs.
Right. Right.
That's sizzle, man. We're all about the steak. You want to
Mm,
bite into juicy, medium rare ribeye steak from a
mm,
place like Alberta in my home country of Canada, Texas, or Argentina. These are the 3 best steaks that I know of. And it's got to be real. If you just bite into the sizzle, your lips are going to burn. That's what influencers are. They got nothing real to give you. They just
mm,
take good pictures and good videos. They got nice smiles. They dress well. Thought
mm,
leaders have thought very deeply about what they do, about
mm,
who they help. Let me tell you something. In my world, right? I teach people how to be thought leaders. This
Mm-hmm.
is a workbook from a 3-day workshop that we do, which is basically about helping you take your thought leadership out of your brain and into the world.
Mm-hmm.
So this here is what Matt Church calls a cluster. And I'm R&Ding that from him, ripping off and duplicating. R&D, it's a very powerful method. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a message you have for the world, right? This is what you know. There's a market. These are people that this message can help, and there's a method, a way to deliver it, whether it's one-on-one coaching, group coaching, speaking, authoring, etc. And this workbook is 162 pages where we take people through the methodology of figuring out what is your life all about, because thought leadership doesn't just happen. Thought
Mm-hmm.
leadership is born of life and experience.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've gone through things, right? If you've gone through, for myself, I've gone through divorce.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone through finding love again after divorce. I've
Mm-hmm.
gone through leaving my homeland behind and coming to an entirely new culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've gone through all kinds of other adversities, partnership breakups, business failures, etc. Those experiences, those adversities have forged me. They have
Mm-hmm.
taken life and given me lessons, and going through them has strengthened me in a way that has made what I know about
Mm-hmm.
those specific types of situations valuable to its core. You're a
Mm-hmm.
thought leader based on your life, not
Mm-hmm.
based on some reading you did in an ivory tower, but on your life. What has happened in your life, what you've learned
Mm-hmm.
is sometimes innate to you. What
Mm-hmm.
I do, what people like me do, and there's not a lot of us in the world, there's just, as far as I know, me and Matt Church and maybe a couple others. We
Mm-hmm.
show you how to take that and put it down out of your head, out of your DNA on paper, and turn it into a codified, structured body of expertise.
Mm-hmm.
Then you look at how that expertise can specifically be of service to a
Mm-hmm.
group of people that are suffering,
Mm-hmm.
silence. And then you bring that out there and you use that to transform their life and their experience, Adrian.
Mm-hmm.
Take their life from tragic to
Mm-hmm.
magic.
May, I like that. And I like that, from tragic to magic. So, you touched on something, or multiple things actually. This really is good, right? So, an expert knows something, an influencer shows something, but a thought leader shapes something, right? We're talking to high driven, high powered leaders who are they are in the game of shaping, of molding, of building, of developing, right? Experts inform, influencers attract, thought leaders transform. So to every leader that's listening and watching right now, we're putting this on the screen and we're having Nicky and I having this conversation because we want to challenge you. We want you to be restless on the inside right now. Are you a leader that just informs? Are you a leader that's attractive, that people are attracted to you? Are you a leader that transforms, that walks the journey with people, that takes people from good to great? We want to invite you, as you are moving forward in your leadership, to caution and to shape yourself to where you are producing integrity over image, right? Don't just communicate big ideas, live them. Your consistency will build your credibility. So, Nicky, I want to ask you this question, right? What's the process you use to shape raw ideas into insights that resonate with others, especially in noisy, fast-moving world?
So Matt Church created a tool called an IP snapshot, also colloquially known as pink sheets, because the first time he printed them on pink colored sheets. So they became known as pink sheets. And basically, this is a methodology which, once I learned it, I use to take my ideas, from raw form into fully developed IP. And basically, it goes from having a basic statement of expertise or authority, mapping it into deeper explanations, building some case studies, having some actual studies, maybe done at a university or other institute, which validate this statement, as well as books that validate the ideas that the statement is trying to put forward. We use a visual model, and then we use metaphors and stories and questions in order to help people take these ideas and make them fully formed. Now, a pink sheet IP snapshot is something that most people struggle with at the beginning when they learn about it. But once they've done 5, 10, 20, 50, 100, it's a wonderful tool that very quickly allows you to take raw ideas and turn them into beautiful, utilizable IP.
This is fantastic. And can you talk to us a little bit about any testimonials that you may have from people who you've seen utilize this?
God, I mean, dozens. I know one fellow that God worked with years ago, when he got introduced to this concept, and I kind of helped him start to think through how to get his ideas out in a more rapid fashion using this methodology. Because the pink sheet methodology is out there in the universe right now. Matt Church has started to make it be something that people have out there, and I learned about it, and I wanted to share what I learned with some folks. This fellow was able to use the pink sheet methodology to validate and create a whole bunch of great ideas. And he started to become a globally renowned thought leader in his space. He now makes over 7 figures a year doing what he does. And he was invited to do a TEDx talk that has been seen by tens of thousands of people in his area of expertise. So this is one really awesome way that getting your IP out there can absolutely help you win.
Okay, this is good. This is good. And we'll invite people to engage with you a little bit more in this later on in this episode. I want to ask you this question, right? Taking it back to our leaders. Why do most leaders live in their comfort zone? And how can we get them out of the comfort zone to where they are truly living and operating in authenticity?
Well, a comfort zone is like a den of iniquity. It's like comfort is like a drug. So when you're in a comfort zone, you're like spaced out and drugged out, right? And the only way out of it is to go cold turkey out of comfort and to put yourself out there in discomfort and have that force you to move. And most people are not good at doing that by themselves, which is why they need to be in the right communities, right? So one of the things we have is we have a highly curated community of heart leaders, people who lead from the heart. But make no mistake about it, these are folks that are looking to grow their impact and their income as well. So being a part of this community forces them out of their comfort zone. On their own, they'd maybe go to X in terms of their potential, but being part of the community helps them go to 3X, 10X, even 100X. And that really is the truth. We as human beings are meant to be with others, especially others of a like mind. When we do that, we flourish.
I love that. So to every leader that's listening and watching right now, I want you to go ahead and put in the comments, #flourish. We want to flourish. I want to also challenge you with this. The comfort zone promises peace, but it quietly steals potential. To every leader right now, I want us to ask ourselves, are we operating in our comfort zone because we're seeking peace, but really and truly we're being robbed right now because we're not operating, living out, executing our full potential? Nikki, I found this quote that says, most people don't stay in their comfort zone because they're lazy. They stay because they're afraid.
I agree.
And when we look at research with leaders, I mean, actually, it's not just leaders, all of us universally, we experience fear of failure, right? Worrying that we're going to step outside of our place of competence, right? And be seen as something less than competent. Sometimes fear of judgment. What are other people going to think, right? If they see me stumble, I'm supposed to be the leader. Fear of uncertainty. Everybody thinks I have all the answers, but I really don't. And so, leaders, we're talking about thought leadership today, and we want to invite you right now to challenge yourself. Stop doing assessment. Is there any area in which you're operating out of fear and inauthenticity? That right now is a great place to stop and turn that corner, because we're going to continue to talk with Nikki about how to walk forward as a thought leader using possibly what he has, or the model he has already put in place, and also some of the best practices. So, Nikki, let me ask you this. How can we create a compelling personal brand through thought leadership?
That's a fantastic question. Let me answer it by sharing a story with you, Adrian. So, um, many years ago, I was introduced to a young man who was 25 at the time that I met him. So, this young man was a personal fitness coach, but he did not have a compelling personal brand. And how you knew it is because he only made $1,200 a month and he had 7 clients, Adrian. You know what I'm saying? Someone introduced him to me saying, I think Nikki might be able to help you. So I met with him. His name was Dan. And Adrian, he was a good fellow. He was a good young man. He was the kind of man that if you had a daughter, you would want your daughter to date him. You'd say, stop dating those losers, man. Go out with Dan. Dan will treat you right, right? Um, so Dan and I met. And he said, Nikki, you think you can help me? I said, I don't know. I think so. But let me ask you a few questions. I said, well, Dan, listen, tell me about who you help. What are you known for? He said, oh, Nikki, I can help anybody with any health and fitness problem. I can help you lose weight. I can help you gain muscle. I can help you prep for a wedding. And I'm like, yo, stop, Dan. You sound like you're all things to all people. And that's not compelling. I said, you need to narrow your focus. He goes, how do I do that? I said, well, let's go through this exercise. And so, Adrian, I wanted to go through an exercise with him, right? And I want to show you this exercise because I got to tell you, I think you're going to like it. It's called the ideal client model. I created this, right? Who are the clients, Dan, you got the best results for? Who are the clients that are easiest to do business with? Who did you enjoy working with the most, right? And who was all three? Now, the problem with Dan was, Adrian, he had so few clients, he couldn't really properly answer those questions. So he had to make it up, right? He had people that were in some buckets, but nobody was in all 3 buckets. He says, okay, I'm going to go with doctors. I'm like, doctors? Why doctors? He says, well, my dad's a doctor and I love my dad. I said, that's great, Danny, but why else? He said, doctors make a lot of money, don't they? He says, and I'm like, Dan, you can't go after people just because they make money. You need more. He goes, no, I'm doing it. A month or 2 goes by, he gets 1 or 2 clients, but no great shakes. I said, Danny, we gotta turn this around. He goes, okay. He said, I got a cardiologist. I'm gonna work with cardiologists. I'm like, cardiologists? Why cardiologists? He says, they make more money than doctors. I'm like, Danny, no. He says, no, I'm doing it. He got no cardiologist clients. However, during this time, he was introduced to a very exceptional man. His name was Papito Wilson. He was an African Cuban refugee from Castro's Cuba who lost a leg in a childhood accident, right? But he was a Paralympian athlete. So him and Dan worked together, and Danny helped this dude win medals at major international championships. I think he even won some gold medals, right? So right up there. So Danny comes to me and he goes, Nikki, I owe you an apology. I go, what for? He said, well, you've been telling me not to go after the money and I didn't listen to you. And you were right and I was wrong. I'm like, all right, that's good. He said, I'm not going to do that anymore. He said, I want to help people with missing limbs, because I really know how to help them, because me and Pepito, we made it happen. He wrote a book about it. Anyways, I instantly knew this was God given. This was a God download. And I said, yeah, you go, Dan. Within 6 weeks, with no marketing, no ad spend, Dan
Mhm.
signed up 400 clients.
Wow.
400. He had to rejig his model, which was one-on-one coaching, to online and group coaching, because you can't work with 400 clients one-on-one, one person. It's just not going to work, right?
Mhm.
He went from making 1,200 a month to making over $100,000 a month. He was seen as the go-to thought leader in Canada for working with people with missing limbs for health and fitness.
Mhm.
And clients kept pouring in by not going after the money. Now, why is that, Adrian? You will ask me that. And
Mhm.
the answer is really straightforward and simple. Okay. So put yourself in the shoes of a individual with one or more missing limbs.
Mhm.
Probably not thrilled
Mhm.
be in that situation. Would you agree? Would prefer to have all their limbs, right?
Agree. Mhm.
Probably feel at least moderately to very resentful about
Mhm.
the situation they find themselves in. Probably not thinking working out is really in their future. But Dan's message was, I see you.
Mhm.
I know you. You're just as good and capable of anything as anyone else. That message is way more impactful than I'm going to train you.
Mhm. Mhm.
And thought leadership, heart leadership, which is what Dan demonstrated, is all about leading from the heart and helping people who could really benefit from your help by wanting to serve and not focusing on, I wonder how much money this is going to make me.
Mm. I love that. I love that. So then that leads me to the next question, which I think you have started kind of hitting on it, but I'm going to ask you to really double down and just get to the nitty gritty, right? And here's the question. So, for the leaders that are, all of us that are listening right now, why is it better to go narrow in your market niche than broad?
Well, look at what happened with Dan. When he was going broad, he had 7 clients. When he
Mhm.
went narrow, he got 406 weeks. I
Mhm.
think that answers the question in and of itself. If you try to be all things to all people, you're nothing to nobody. You're a
Mm.
wandering generality, not a meaningful specific. And in
Mhm.
life, you want to be a meaningful specific and not a wandering generality.
I love that. Transformation Station, we always take time to reflect and in the midst of our podcast. So I'm going to invite everybody to reflect on what Nikki just shared with us, right? Here's the truth. When you try to reach everyone, you often reach no one. He gave us a powerful illustration, 7 clients, and woo, had this, amazing transition. And Nikki, everybody wants to, all leaders want to be impactful in some way, shape, or form, right? And many times as a leader, we get discouraged or we can get discouraged when we perceive that we're not being impactful, right? Maybe the numbers aren't coming in, or we're just struggling with, the foundational leadership things and our teams following us. But Nikki shared with us today in multiple words that it's really important that we get narrow, that we get specific, that we understand our why, that we understand what our focus is so that we can find that right team, find that right audience, or have them find us. If we're talking to everybody, then no one feels like the message that we're putting out there is really for them. So it's important that we focus in on the impact that we want to have to that specific audience, and then be patient. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, Nikki?
Amen, sister. Preach it.
And the other thing I was thinking about when you were talking was this other concept, right? In terms of a lot of times as leaders, we get very impatient and we want to invite everybody to trust the long game, right? Growth may start small, but it will compound. Depth of service always leads to breadth of influence over time. Over time, even like what we're doing right now, podcast, right? I was reading something the other day and they said everybody starts a podcast and they have this anticipation that within the first 30 days, boom, you're going to have like 1 million views and all this stuff. And they get so discouraged when there's like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. And they were saying it really takes like a year to 2 years to really build that consistent tribe that's rolling with you, that's following you. They said that honeymoon phase, you start off, you're going to have people that come in and they listen or they watch. And, oh, okay, that's nice. Nicky, like his podcast. Okay, that's great. And then they move on. But those that really understand you, right, that really are being fed by what you're putting out, they will hang in there and then start spreading it. And in time, it will grow.
So true.
I think you started to answer the question in terms of how can a leader position themselves as a thought leader so the ideal clients can come. You shared that with what you just shared with us. So I'm going to ask you this as we turn the corner right here. I'm going to invite you right now, from your experience, from your heart, from lessons learned. What final words do you want to share with our leaders that will inspire and empower them as they move forward?
Let me share one last story with you, Adrian. And this is a story I know you're going to love. So many years ago, there was a woman who was introduced to us, and I'm going to call her Julie. And that's not a real name. She's very private. And she used to be the country director for Canada for one of the oldest and largest personal development firms on the planet. If I told you the name of the firm, you would instantly recognize it. It's a global brand with tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of global customers that have been powerfully and positively affected by its teachings. Mm-hmm. Now, there was a point where she decided to bring someone on board to help her run the company in Canada who she thought was very talented. And at first, everybody got along, right? But after a while, their visions of the future began to diverge. And there's a board of directors, and the board of directors sided with him, and she was out of her own company, kind of like Steve Jobs back in the 80s with John Scully and Apple, if you remember that story, right?
Yes.
And Steve Jobs talks about it in this speech he delivers to the graduating class of Stanford University in 2007. And he says, well, how can you be kicked out of a company you started? Well, with the board of directors, quite simply and easily, right? Like Steve, she was lost and bereft. And she was going around to people and trying to apologize for having let them down. And no. People said, no. That's not what it said. She said, you just need to get back on your feet. And she started to realize that she still loved what she did. Mm-hmm. She loved making a difference for people. She loved opening their hearts and helping them get to the next level in life. She wanted them to live life as the best version of themselves.
Yes.
So 18 months go by, and God Almighty introduces her to someone who introduces her to me and my beloved. My beloved is a woman named Teresa Dugwell. We worked together. She was a coach for Tony Robbins for 8.5 years. She's done 14,000 hours of one-on-one coaching with clients. Think about that. That's pretty crazy if you think about it. Mm-hmm. And so she came to us. We did what we do. We ran the ideal client exercise and a whole bunch of other ones. We got her clear on her focus, her ideal client, her message, her method of delivery. Boom. She's off into the races. Month 1, she does 10,000 in business. Month 2, she does 12,000. Month 3, she does 18,000. Month 4, boom, $62,200 in business. Mm-hmm. She is rocking. Mm-hmm. And then something amazing happens. Mm-hmm. I have 2 sons. At the time, my oldest boy was 12. He played soccer played high level for many years. Had a chance to go pro, but decided he didn't want to do that, which broke my heart because I wanted him to go pro. But
Yes.
he had other plans. He had other plans. So
Yes.
he had a soccer tournament in Ottawa, Ontario, where she lived. I live in Toronto. It's a 5-hour drive. We're driving to Ottawa, and I'm calling her up, and I go, yo, you got a son my boy's age, right? She goes, yeah. I said, we're coming to Ottawa for a tourney. Would you guys like to come on the last day, watch us play, maybe grab some lunch? She's like, yeah, that'd be great. So she brings her son. We win the tourney, which is amazing. We grab some lunch with them. She goes home. We drive home. For her, it's 20 minutes. For us, it's 5 hours. But hey, so a few weeks later, we had one of our quarterly branded thought leader immersion workshops. This is where our curated, heart-driven, heart leader thought leaders come together. We pour into them for 3 days, and we show them a bigger vision of what's possible for them. And there's a point there where we do an enrollment opportunity to our year-long program, which is $45,000. Okay. A high ticket program. Would you agree, Adrian? High ticket program. So the time comes for me to do the enrollment. And the way I do it is I call upon our members to share their experience. Now, Adrian, that's pretty smart if you think about it. Better than me talking.
Yes.
Pretty smart. You know, Mrs. Billou's oldest boy didn't fall off the back of the turnip truck, right? So I go and and normally people put up their hands, I choose them, and I go, who'd like to share? This time, Julie, before anybody could put up their hand, bounds on stage. There was a stage I was standing on, and she almost knocks me on my butt. Now, I'm 190 pounds. She's maybe 105 soaking wet. Okay. So it was like the energy she brought to that bound was something. I'm like, okay, I guess you really wanted to share. So no problem. Go ahead. I go to the back of the stage. She's at the front. I'm standing, leaning back. I'm wearing a suit, looking dapper, looking calm. And then I wait. Adrian, I wait and I wait, and she says nothing. She's just scanning the audience. And I'm starting to think, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, I see her shoulders go up, and I hear a sniffle and a sob. And I go, wait, is she crying? Adrian, I'm an old-fashioned, masculine, red-blooded man. When a woman cries in my presence, the first thought in my head is, what did I do wrong?
Classic question. Yes. 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 Yes.
So, however, my beloved Teresa, who was far more intuitive, bounds on stage and hands her a box of tissues. She gratefully accepts, and then she motions me over, puts her arm around me, and she's still sobbing and crying. And I'm like, I'm looking cool, but inside I'm like, what is about to happen, man? This is like not what I was expecting. And in between sobs, she goes, Nicky, when you and your little son came to visit me and my little son in Ottawa a few weeks back, my little son, 12 years old, full of piss and vinegar, goes, Mommy, who are we going to go meet? Who are we going to go meet? Adrian, you've been around 12-year-old boys. You know what 12-year-old boys are like. So you get what I'm saying. Right?
Yes.
Boy, 12, right? So she's like, oh my God, he's got boy energy coming right at me. I got to get him quiet. So she goes, oh, sweetie, we're going to go meet Nicky Billou and his son to try and shut him up, right? It worked. All of a sudden, he went totally silent. And to the point where she got worried. She goes, oh my God, what happened? Why is he? She goes, sweetie, you okay? She goes, Mommy. And he was like, not that boy energy excitement. He was like really like hushed, you know? Mommy, are we going to meet the man who saved our family?
Oh, wow.
And so, Adrian, I'm from the Middle East. I am old school, masculine, not a wuss, don't cry in public, etc., etc. You probably gathered all this from this conversation we've had right now, right? I bawled like a little baby, bawled and bawled and bawled and bawled some more. And then we hugged. And everyone in the audience goes, oh. And then all of a sudden, she says, you didn't know this, but when I first came to you, I hadn't made any money in 18 months. And my husband's an artist. He takes photographs. I'm the breadwinner in the family. We hadn't paid our mortgage in months. The bank was about to foreclose on our home. Me and my husband were fighting in front of the kids like cats and dogs. They were freaked out that we were going to break up the family, and so was I.
Mhm. Mhm.
But then I met you, and you
Mhm.
poured into me. You loved on me. You showed me, you and Teresa, and you just loved on me and everybody else. And I started to make money, and I paid off what we owed, and we stopped fighting, and our family is healed. You
Mhm.
literally saved our family. So
Mhm.
we hugged again. I wiped my tears. And normally I ask 2 or 3 people to share at least, right? Sometimes more. I made
Mhm.
an executive decision on this day that nobody else was going to share because there was no way anybody was going to come close to that.
Mhm.
Right? Like,
Mhm.
okay. I said, Teresa, hand out the reg forms. Now there are 8 people in the room, 8 that are
Mhm.
potential buyers. There was more, but they weren't, they were already part of our community. Normally, Adrian, normally, some people are, yes, I'm in. And some people are, no, I'm out. And some
Mhm.
people are, I have questions. And
Mhm.
my job, I'm the enrollment maestro. I sit with them and I will walk them through the questions. And more often than not, I get them to yes. But on this day, on this day, none of that was necessary. For the first and only time, everyone in the room signed up. Now, I've had everyone sign up since then, but never without at least a little bit of a conversation until actually our last one when everyone signed up without any conversation, which was good.
Mhm.
But everyone signed up right away for a very high ticket program. And 2 of the people in the 8 had come to me beforehand and said, look, Nicky, we love you. You're great. Your program's great, but I want you to know we're not signing up for your opportunity at your enrollment. I don't
Mhm.
want you to be offended. It is not personal. I'm just not signing up. Okay. And look,
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, dude, whatever. Good. Enjoy the program you've signed up for. Let's not worry about that. They were the first 2 people to hand in their completed forms with credit cards. And the first dude looks at me and goes, you son of a bitch. He said, I told you I wasn't going to sign up for your enrollment opportunity. And I'm like, okay, so why did you? He said, here's the truth. I need help, but I've been burned so many times before.
Mhm.
I just didn't want to take another chance. And I took
Mhm.
a look at what just happened here. I experienced this week, this last 3 days, and I listened to that woman and I've gotten to know her. And um, I guessed you're not completely full of crap.
Mhm.
That's what he said. I was like, I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah.
And I say this to you because it's a full circle to the story I shared at the beginning about my father and believing in people and loving on people. My job on this earth, as long as God chooses to send me, to use me,
Mhm.
you know that line from scripture, send me, Lord, use me,
Mhm.
Lord. I
Mhm.
forget which passage it is, but
Mhm.
um, when that happened, um, I just thought that's what my job is. And to do that, I got to find good people that need help, and I got to keep doing what I do and what Teresa does, which is really lean into hard our belief and love for our fellow man and woman. And the more we do that, the more successful they're going to be, but really the more successful we're going to be in enrolling more of the right people into our community. Because I have
Mhm.
a vision, Adrian, that we're going to have a billion multimillionaires in this world
Mhm.
to create the biggest constituency for freedom and free enterprise the world has ever seen, and destroy the forces of godless socialism and communism. They're trying to destroy our beautiful free enterprise world that God created for all of us. And my role in that is I want a thousand men and women in our community, curated heart leaders, loved and loving themselves. That's our goal. We want to help them get there. And that's my mic drop moment, Adrian.
Yeah. Now that's a powerful moment there. Very powerful and very inspirational. It reminds me of this thought here, right? When you position yourself with clarity and authenticity, the right clients don't have to be convinced. They're compelled. And in your story, those right clients, they were compelled, right, by what they saw, which also reminds us of this thought leadership isn't about being everywhere. It's about being exactly where your message meets someone's need. And I think that's a very powerful point for us to in this particular session on, to all of our leaders that are listening and watching. Nicky has shared some really pivotal and powerful principles, leadership principles for us to reflect on and to also see how we can activate in our lives. And Nicky, I know that there are leaders that are listening and watching that want to reach out to you, engage with the resources that you have. What's the best way for someone to do that?
So, look, I'm offering a complimentary coaching call. We call it a success call to help you get a breakthrough in your mindset and in your business. And the way to book that, and it's free, I don't charge for it. I could, but I don't. It's at ecircleacademy.com/appointment.
Fantastic. So, Transformation Station community, we always like to engage with our guests. So, I'm inviting you to go ahead and take advantage of this free resource, this free call with Nicky, and also let him know that you saw or that you heard this particular episode, and let him know what resonated with you. Feel free to ask questions, because as always, the community that learns together grows together, and we want to keep on growing. Nicky, it has been wonderful to have you with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adrian. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. All right. Well, listen, I know that there are multiple aspects of this episode that resonated with you. Here's what I hope you take away from today's conversation. Thought leadership isn't reserved for a select few. It's available to anyone willing to think deeply, speak truthfully, and serve generously. What's one idea you believe could make a difference if you had the courage to share it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your answers even now in the comments, or message me on whatever social platform you are joining us with. I'm Adrian Benton. This has been Transformation Station, where leaders grow from the inside out. So until next time, stay grounded, stay growing, and keep on transforming.